thousands of small tribes, and these tribes did not develop writing or monumental architecture, and little is known about them before 1500 CE. And in 1500, Portuguese explorer Barrow Everest Cabral discovers Brazil while on road to India, and he claimed the land for Portugal. And in 1542, Spanish explorer Francisco de Orellana completes the first navigation to the anti-Amazon River. And in 1565, the city of Rio de Janeiro is established. In 1727, the first coffee bush is planted in Brazil by Francisco de Melo Belheta, and Brazil eventually became the world's largest producer of coffee. And in 1889, Deodoro de Fonseca led a coup to take over the government from the emperor. He changed the government to a republic ruled by constitutions, and over years since, the country has been ruled by elected presidents as well as by military coups, and a federal republic established. And at last, in 1960, the capital city, it moved from Rio de Janeiro to Brasilia. And that's it all about the history. So let's move to the geography and biodiversity. So we can see that Brazil is the largest country in the South America continent, and Brazil domain stretches on the way up Atlantic coast and deep into the interiors of the continent. And Brazil is bordered by every country of the continent except for Ecuador and Chile, and the exact number is 11 countries. And next is Brazil is divided into 27 federative units, and 26 of which are state and one federal district where the capital resides. And Brazil has a ton of islands. Up the coast, first, the furthest reach of Brazilian domain would have to be 4 islands and in the Atlantic, and this is Fernando de Noronha, the Costa Atoll, and the St. Peter and St. Paulo rocks, and the last is Trindade and Martin Vaz. So let's move to the biodiversity of Brazil. And we all know that Amazon is an imperative factor of the nation domains, and 60% of Amazon rainforest is located in Brazil, mostly in the north. And out of on 10 million species of animal and insects known to human beings, and about half of them call the Amazon rainforest home. Many of the species that have to be discovered are still lingering about in the deep, uncharted depth of Amazon today. And there are a huge deforestation problem going on the Amazon to provide more agricultural lands, and everyone is harshly criticizing the actions, but it's very tricky because Brazil population is rapidly growing and they need more resources for the people. And Brazil has only owns about 5% of the mountain, and Mount Roraima is one of the strongest looking flat-top plateau mountain with the vertical cliff, and earning it the label as one of the hardest mountain to climb. And there is a fun side note. You can see that Mount Roraima was one of the areas that inspired the scenery for the Pixar movie Up. And the last part I would like to introduce to you is about people and religion. Brazil Brazil's populations it ranked the fifth in the world, right behind Indonesia. And let's jump to the pie chart. About 47% of the people identify as white, and about 43% identify as uh, Brado, and about 8% are black and 1% Asian, and very small portions, about 0.5% are Americans, and about 1% of Asians. There are almost Japanese because about 1.5 millions in Brazil is, and Brazil there is a Brazil is a country with the largest Japanese population outside of Japan, and Asians has been historically migrating to Brazil for centuries. The next is the tribes in Brazil, and there are 240 tribes and over 900,000 people claim to be the part of ethnic groups, and the government had recognized 690 territories and reservations for the various people groups. And Brazil government has listed about 80 uncontacted tribal groups that deliberately to remain disconnected from the rest of the world. So let's move to the last part is the religion. And we can see the main religion in the country is Catholicism, with about 3/4 of Brazilians declaring themselves Catholics, and Roman Catholicism has been the main religion in Brazil since the 16th century, and the greatest number of Catholics in the world reside in Brazil. So that's the end of my part. To get a better understanding about the culture of Brazil, so let's come to three-level culture, which is presented by one of our group member. Please welcome Kim.
Hello everybody, my name is Kim and I will show you the surface culture and the intermediate culture of Brazil. Before I begin, I would like to notice that I try to pronounce a lot of these Brazilian words, but I cannot. So they would be my makeshift English pronunciation to say these words. And pardon me with that. Okay, so for surface level, we will be digging onto the costumes, the music, the cuisine, and finally the sports in Brazil. So, first of all, for costume, as we have known, Brazil is a culturally diverse country, and so are its outfits. The origins of the Brazilian traditional clothing are from Europe, from Africa, or from Portugal. They're from a lot of countries and factors that have been alongside with Brazil's history. And so there are a lot of costumes, but let's look at two. And those are bombachas and the banana dress. So first of all, the bombachas. The bombachas are a type of baggy trousers originally worn by cowboys. They usually are made out of cotton and are comfortable for riding. Some people also call them gaucho pants from the name gaucho given to the native cowboys of South America. They are worn by both men and women. The male costume combines the bombachas with a poncho over a white shirt, a white straw hat, and leather riding boots. And the second one is banana dress. The banana dress originates from the region of Bahia, and some women in that area still wear the dress on a regular basis. The dress is made out of breathable fabric with beautiful embroidery called bordado. The skirt is round and long, down to the ankles, Women also wear a white turban on their heads, neck necklaces, and a long colored shawl. The Biana dress is inspired. No. The Biana dress inspired the Carmen Miranda costume, which is very popular in Brazil as well. So now let's move on to the music. The music of Brazil is also rich in diversity, and there are quite some genres in Brazil too. Let's look at two, and those are samba and bossa nova. So for samba, for samba, like, we cannot talk about Brazilian music without samba. Samba has its roots in Africa and nowadays is an iconic and symbolic Brazilian culture and carnival. One of the most influential samba artists who is considered a key force in the development of samba is Cartola, who produced more than 500 songs with classics such as I Need to Find Myself or The Sun Will Rise. And there are some other popular artists you can find in our handout that you can Google and find out. I want to introduce like 30 seconds of this song because it sounds very different from what we're used to. So let's listen to like 30 seconds of it. Yeah, pretty different from what we're used to, right? So now let's move on to Bossa Nova, and I find it even more novel than samba. So Bossa Nova was a new movement of music that was popularized in the 1950s and 1960s and was associated to MPB, Brazilian pop music, with samba at the core and an influence of American jazz. The instruments most commonly used were classical guitar, piano, and acoustic bass and drums. This slowed down the rhythm and gave many songs a floaty and romantic feel, which complemented perfectly to the many songs of lyrics of love, passion, and beauty. The most famous artist of this movement was João Gilberto and Chica just so that you can find more in the handout. Now let's listen to the 30 seconds of the song. It's called Samba. Yeah, so that is, it's called one note samba because samba is a core of bossa nova, but that's bossa nova. Pretty interesting, isn't it? So now let's go to cuisine. And just like anything else, it's also very diverse. And we're gonna look on two dishes. One is the national and one is the speciality. So the national dish is, as you see, that is its name. I can't pronounce it. And so, well, this dish is a rich, hearty stew made with different cuts of pork and black beans. It is the national dish and is served countrywide. Traditionally, it's made with offal, such as struthers and ears, which are slow cooked, and the whole process can take up to 24 hours. That's very long and interesting. The second dish that we are looking at is picaha, and it is barbecued meat. And barbecued meat is Brazilian specialty. And the picaha, or it's also called rump, is the most popular cut, and it is seasoned with only salt because it's and before it's cooked to perfection. The thick layer of fat is charred, and the tender pink, smoky middle falls apart in your mouth. Picaha is one of the highlights you find at a Brazilian barbecue, but there are plenty of others, including wild boar and chicken hearts. And now let's go to sports. And as we might have known that The most popular sport in Brazil is football, or it's also called soccer, and this sport is the nation's most popular sport. And Brazilians are highly enthusiastic fans of this very sport. This sport is played virtually everywhere by young and old, amateur or professional. Brazilian Brazil is the most successful national team in the FIFA World Cup, being crowned winner 5 times, which is in the 1958, 1962, 1970, 1994, and 2002. Some of the most famous Brazilian male soccer players are Ronaldo, Rivaldo, and Pelé. I think they all look very handsome. And now let's go to the intermediate level structure. And for this, we will be working on the symbols, um, the symbols, meanings, and interpretation, and then the norms. For the symbols and meanings and interpretation, we'll find out about the national flag, the national emblem, the national bird, the national flower, and then the Christ, the Redeemer, which is the big Jesus statue. Okay, for the national flag, this is the Brazilian flag. And the national flag of Brazil comprises of a green background with a yellow rhombus or diamond shape in the center, as you can see. And the yellow represents gold or the wealth of Brazil, while the green symbolizes the rich foliage and rolling fields of this beautiful country. In the middle of the yellow is the dark blue circle, littered with white stars, like you can see. And this represents the night sky, and each of the 27 stars stands for a state. Across the center of the blue sphere is a banner with the words Ordem e Progresso, which, when translated, reads order and progress. And now let's look at the national emblem. This is called the Brazilian coat of arms, and it features an intricate design of several features. There is a green, red, and yellow star with 5 points. In the center is a blue circle, which has a tobacco plant on one side of its border and a coffee plant on the other. In the blue circle are stars, the Southern Cross, surrounded by 27 small white stars representing each of the states of Brazil. Behind this Behind this composite image is a multi-pointed round shape resembling the sun. At the bottom of the coat of arms is a blue banner bearing the words República something, which translates to Republic of Brazil, as well as the date on which it achieved such political status, which is November 15, 1886. 89, sorry, 1889. Okay, next, the national bird. The national bird of Brazil is, you can see its name, or yeah, another name of it. It is a renowned songbird, valued for its sweet melody. It is also admired for its distinctive orange belly. It measures around 25 centimeters in length and was declared a national symbol on the 4th of October 22. Now let's go to the national flower of Brazil. And this one has no English name. So you can see those are the names of the flower. And it's a native tree of the broad-leaved deciduous forest of South America and is characterized by the bright spray of yellow flowers which come out before the spring leaves re-emerge. And finally, one of the biggest symbols of Brazil is the Christ the Redeemer. And it is a 124-foot statue of Jesus with his arms outstretched, standing high on the mountain of Rio City. It has more than a religion meaning to the Brazilians. It bears many more meanings besides it. One of the meanings is that the open arms signifies the Brazilians as hospitable and good hosts. It is a religious symbol, a cultural symbol, and a symbol of Brazil. In the handout, we also attach an article from the Washington Post, and I think it's very comprehensive about this statue. You can find out more if you want. Now let's go to the norms. There are a lot of norms in the handout, but for the presentation, we'll just look at the naming conventions, the meeting and greeting, the dining and food, and okay, those three. First, for naming conventions, There are three things that are very interesting. Like in Brazil, the sequence of naming begins with the first name, then the middle name or names followed by the mother's last name, and then the father's last name. The mother keeps her name, therefore, and adds her husband's last name. That's different from America, as you might have noticed. And in recent years, tradition has evolved, and it is nowadays considered it's not considered necessary anymore for the woman to include her husband's name. And for median greeting, men shake hands when greeting one another while maintaining steady eye contact. Women generally kiss each other, starting with the left and alternative cheeks. Hugging and backslapping are common greetings among Brazilian friends, and if a woman wishes to shake hands with a man, she would extend her hand first. And the next, we would come to dining and food. There are quite some rules, eh, some norms where when dining in Brazil. And first of all, is that it is not unusual to be casual about timing. So being late for dinner or a party is not really frowned upon. But you shouldn't be more than half an hour late for dinner and more than an hour late for a party, because that's too late. Secondly, it is preferable to dress elegantly, and it is better to overdress than underdress. Next is that if you did not bring a gift to the hostess, flowers the next day are always appreciated. And you should not eat your food with your hands, including fruits. Items such as fruits should be cut with a knife and eaten with a fork. And the most honored guest sits at the head of the table and hosts to sit either side. And if invited to a restaurant, it is normally the person who offers the invitation to pay. And but it is important to also pay because that's the norm. And finally, Brazilians often like to spend some time over a meal, so expect not to rush it off. And so now let's move to the next part, which is the D. Oh wait, oh, there's the taboos of Brazil. I'm sorry. Yeah, the taboos of Brazil is that even though they're very open-minded, you must be careful not to talk about religious things because they're taboos. And so now we will come to the D level of culture in Brazil, presented by Zane.
Okay, thank you, Kim, for such a great presentation. And now let's move on to the deep level of culture in Brazil. In this part, we will discuss Brazilian traditions, beliefs, and cultural values. Now let's take a look at traditions. In this part, we will have myths and legends, festivals, as well as ceremonies. Uh, First, I would like to say that in Brazilian culture, there are a lot of different and interesting figures and stories. But here I pick you the three most popular figures from the Brazilian legends. First is the bottle called the Rosa. This is also mean pink dolphin, and the figure is also a pink dolphin, which can change into a charming, handsome man when he walks on the when he comes out of water. And this man flows with all the beautiful women he met. And at night, he would take them to the riverbank, makes love to them, leaving them pregnant, and then dive back into the river and become a dolphin. This is considered to be a Brazilian version of the European mermaid, which are also a half fish, half man creatures that seduce men by using her attractive voice and then devour them. Uh, the story is mostly used to educate women that they should remain virgin until the day they get married. The second figure here is Saci Perere. Saci Perere is one of the most common and popular tradition and legends in Brazil. As you can see in the picture, Saci Perere is a black one-legged boy with a pipe and a red cap. And whenever he appears, he's usually played pranks on others, such as blowing out their campfire or stealing their stuff. And when he is met by people, he would turn into a word wide and ran away. However, the legend also mentioned that one can easily catch him with a sieve and a bottle. I don't know why it doesn't make sense, but it's the legend said that. And there are other version of this story that if you can take the head, take the cap of Saci Perere, he will grant you a wish. Um, but the legend also mentioned that the cap would smell so bad, you may want to reconsider whether your wish worth it. And now the third figure is Cuca. As you can see in the picture, Cuca is an old lady with an alligator face. Um, according to the legend, if Brazilian children are disobedient to their parent, then Cuca will come and steal them and then cook them in her cauldron. This story is actually a Brazilian version of the Western boogeyman used to educate children. And now let's talk about festival. Uh, I would like to ask you guys one question first. When you think about festival in Brazil, what is the first festival that comes to your mind? Feel free to type in the chat box or turn your mic on. What is the first festival you think of when you mention Brazil? Rio de Carnival. Yes, thank you. It's the Rio Carnival. This festival begins about 40 days before Easter, and it is the world's most famous and also the biggest carnival. And it attracts millions of visitors from around the world. At the time of the festival, the street will be filled with the sound of drums when samba schools all over the city prepare to take part in the Samba Run Parade, an starting performance of exotic dance, music, and creativity. And the beaches are packed with revelers and hundreds of tourist parties known as locals. And usually they take place from dusk all the way to dawn. And last year 2019 Rio Carnival was also a great success. Let's take a look at a few pictures from the last year carnival. Amazing, right? And now another festival I would like to mention here is the festival that is estimated to be only less popular than Carnival. It is Harrington's Folklore Festival, usually happen at the last weekend of June. Uh, this festival is to celebrate the unique culture of the people who live in this fascinating environment by using ancient story, myth, and legend. And throughout this celebration, the storytellers, impressive flows, and bewitching costumes will fill the street, many of which boast the replica of colorful wildlife and tribes that live in the rainforest. And due to its unique jungle location, this carnival presents a chance to try some fantastic local food as street vendors are parked along the street, selling their finest dishes. And the last festivals I would like to mention is the Sao Paulo Gay Pride and Oktoberfest in Blumenau. Sao Paulo Gay Pride usually happen in early June and widely known as the biggest and most extravagant gay pride parade in the world. These events even attract astonishing 5 million people to the street of Sao Paulo, and it broke the world record in 2002 for the biggest gay pride parade. And Oktoberfest in Blumenau usually happens for 3 weeks of October. It is well known in Europe, and this beer center celebration began when German immigrants living in Blumenau, Brazil, decided they want to have their own version of this popular festival. And now, as usual, we will take a look at the two most important ceremonies, the wedding and funeral. First, let's talk about the wedding. Okay, a wedding is divided into 2 periods of time. The first is the pre-wedding activities. This is only considered the bride. At this point of time, the wedding pampering is usually a few days before the wedding itself. And this is the time where the bride spends to talk to her family about a big day coming. And this usually happens at the spa where they spend time relaxing with each other. And also we have chá de cozinha or chá de panela, or also known as the kitchen showers. This is a pre-party where the bride invites all her girlfriends and relatives to come and bring gifts that she might need for her new house. Now the custom changed a little bit, and even the bride's male friend can come to this party, not just a female friend. Now about the tradition and custom at the wedding itself. Usually the bride and the groom will meet a few days before the wedding, and then they will part and won't see each other again until the wedding day, because it is considered bad luck if they do so. And the groom usually will have to come to the ceremony first and wait for the bride. And it is customary and also acceptable for the bride to make a late entrance of at least 10 minutes. And this is considered good luck. Uh, there are a few tips from people who have attended a wedding in Brazil. They suggest that if you want to come to a wedding in Brazil, you should take something to keep yourself company, like a fan hand, since at some cases the bride would be late up to 1 or 2 hours. And another custom is the bride would write the names of her single female friends on the hem of her wedding dress. This is an act of wishing them good luck in their love life. And the groom will have to deal with Bumba Milk Boy. This is a tradition where the groom will have to tame a donkey to show his worth to the bridal family, and that he is capable of taking care of his family. After the ceremony, the guests will be welcomed to a big reception with a lot of food, drinking, singing, dancing, and speeches. After which, the groom's thigh is taken and cut into small pieces, and then it is sold to the guest with the highest bid. And most of the time, the groom's best man is the one to host this auction. At the same time, the bride will engage in a heel and toe dance, where she takes off her golden shoe and put it on the dance floor and dance around with the guests. The guests will also throw cash around the golden shoe of the bride. These two customs are considered to be a wish for a wealthy life and a stable finance to the couple. Now let's move on to the second ceremony, the funeral. Normally, a funeral in Brazil won't surpass 48 hours, while other Western country would have a funeral up to 7 days. The Brazil funeral will be 48 hours top. The main reason is that the Brazil funeral focus not on not on appreciating the good time that the living had with the disease, but focus on the loss and pain and nothing else, only loss and pain. And it is not uncommon to see people crying, screaming, and even fainting in the funeral. So a period of time of 48 hours is easy to understand. And the funeral is usually not held at home, but at a Belarus. This is a public or private building used to mourn the dead. And since Christianity, the core religion in Brazil, burials are more common than cremation. Up to 42% of dead people are buried. And as you can, and the cost for funeral service in Brazil is actually quite high, but there is some humanity in the service. Uh, if the family of the deceased claim that they cannot afford the funeral service, then the service will be offered for free. And one special case is if the deceased is an organ donor, then the service is also free, but the family will be given away funeral flowers as well as funeral candles. Now let's talk about the cultural shared beliefs. There are many interesting beliefs in Brazil. The first is handbags on the floor. Usually, this is the most common and widespread superstition in Brazil. Brazilians believe that if someone leaves their handbag on the floor, they will definitely lose money. Therefore, Brazilians prefer to put their handbags on the lap or on the table. And the second is the deadly mango with milk. Brazilian people believe that eating mango with milk is lethal, and therefore the parents won't let their children eat the two types of food together. Definitely no. And the last is about dropping silverware or cutlery. In Brazil, people believe that if you drop a knife on the floor, a big fight is going to happen. But it can be avoided by making a cross with the same knife on the floor. And if you drop a fork, then expect a male visitor to come. And if you drop a spoon, then a female visitor would knock at your door. Now, the last thing of this deep level of culture is the cultural values. Uh, as you can see in the charts, the four cultural values of Brazil is very clear. Can someone list the four cultural values for me? Look at the chart and list the four cultural values for me, please. Anyone? Please turn on your mic. No. How about Đỗ Thanh Đạt? Could you turn on the mic and help me? Đỗ Thanh Đạt. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Please list for me four cultural values from this chart.
Uh, for cultural values,
Hello,
a Brazilian culture.
greeting.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who?
My name is Wei Hui, and I think present.
Okay, Wang Hui would also like to answer, but sorry, I already invited Đỗ Thanh Đạt, so maybe next time. Sorry, but thank you. Đỗ Thanh Đạt, could you say again what are the four cultural values?
There are two more long-term orientation and indulgence.
Oh yeah, we
besides
didn't
power
we didn't
distance. Yeah. We have large power distance.
Yes.
Collectivism.
Collectivism.
Yeah, because the percentage of individualism just 38%.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and how about masculinity?
And, masculinity only 49%. So I think that most of Brazilian are belongs to femininity.
Femininity. Okay. And the last is
and uncertainty avoidance.
Is it
with
strong or weak?
76%.
Is it strong uncertainty or strong uncertainty avoidance or weak uncertainty avoidance?
Strong uncertainty avoidance.
Okay, thank you, Đỗ Thanh Đạt. Okay, thank you a lot. As that mentioned, the cultural values of Brazil culture is large power distance. Large power distance with a score of 69. Brazil reflects a society that believes hierarchy should be respected and inequalities amongst people are acceptable. And also, it is important in Brazil to show respect to the elderly, and the children must take care of their elderly parents. And in companies, there's also one boss to take the complete responsibility. And the next is collectivism. Because Brazil only scored 38 on individualism, this means that in this country, people from the birth onwards are integrated into strong, cohesive groups, especially represented by the extended family, including uncles, aunts, grandparents, and cousins, which continues protecting its member in exchange for loyalty. And the third, intermediate masculinity. We say intermediate masculinity because the percentage of masculinity and femininity are quite the same. And Brazilian society has a measure to respond to what motivates its populace. As a country with intermediate masculinity, Brazil places importance on both masculine and feminine aspect of life. They want to have a masculine dimension through being the best by emphasizing achievement, competition, and success, and feminine dimension through the quality of life such as happiness, teamwork, harmony, and empathy. And the last is, of course, strong uncertainty avoidance. At the score of 76, Brazil is score really high on uncertainty avoidance, and Brazilians show a strong need for rules and elaborate legal system in order to structure life. And Brazilians need to have a good and relaxing moment in their everyday life, such as chatting with colleagues, enjoying a long meal, or dancing with guests and friends. Okay, and that is the end of the deep level culture. Now let's move on to what you should do and should not do in Brazil. Presented by Thảo.
Okay, so hi guys, I'm Thảo and I'm the next representative of Group 10 to introduce you about what we should do and should not do in Brazil. First of all, let's talk about do's. In table manner, you should use the fork in your left hand and the knife in your right hand. No matter what kind of food you eat, you should use your utensil when eating. For example, in Vietnam, when we eat pizza, we usually use our hand, but not in Brazil. Brazilians always use their utensil for all types of food, even pizza or hamburger. And when you go to a restaurant, you should tip the waiter 10%, and it's often included in the bill. Next, on greeting. People in Brazil are very friendly, so yeah, you can see it's very easy to see two Brazilian women kissing on their cheek, while men often shake their hands or give a hug to each other. And if you are invited to a party, you better take something to eat or drink, such as wine or beer. About gift giving, uh, Brazilians prefer to receive what they like, so it's not necessary to give gift when meeting for the first time. You should find out what they like and then give it later. About gift packing, you should use the colorful paper to craft the gift. For example, the color of the Brazil flag. Um, orchid is a good gift, but remember, don't give the purple one. It seems that Brazilians don't like purple and black, so don't give anything in purple and black. When choosing gifts, don't choose the handkerchief. It is considered not a good gift. And it's very normal when you give the gift and it will be opened immediately. Next slide. Punctuality is very important for many countries, but in Brazil, you can be late for about um, 30 minutes. 30 minutes when attending parties or social events. However, for business commitment, you should be on time. Um, but some business appointment may be delayed for about 15 minutes due to the traffic. In communication, you should mention some topics such as soccer or landscape of Brazil. These are welcome topics of conversation. And remember to make eye contact with those around you. It's not only won't be considered impolite, but it's also a safety measure to talk that you are not a thief. Finally, When traveling to crowded places, beware of thieves. You should only bring essential properties when going out and leave important papers or expensive properties at home. One more thing is that traffic in Brazil is quite complicated. So, um, when you cross the road, let's watch carefully before cross. The next part is don'ts. Let's see what we shouldn't do in Brazil. First, do not talk with food in your mouth. This seems very impolite and even disgusting. You also should not make any sound when eating. The sound when eating will make Brazilians feel uncomfortable. When drinking, use glass to enjoy your water. Don't drink directly from a bottle or a can. Next slide, the okay side. This schedule seems very normal in a lot of countries, but in Brazil, it has a completely different meaning. Although Brazilians know the meaning of this schedule, but be careful if you don't want to get in trouble. You can use thumbs up to express your idea instead. Brazilians don't like drunker. You can enjoy your own wine or beer, but shouldn't get over drunk. They don't respect such person. And next, remember to avoid giving obviously pricey gifts and boasting about your wealth, class, or hierarchy. Brazilians are very humble, so you should pay more attention to expensive gifts. As what I mentioned, you should give you should give the gift they like more than the expensive one. And you also should be humble about yourself. Don't brag. In communication, avoid discussing or debating politics, poverty, or religions. Even when someone mentions this topic, you should not raise your own opinion to avoid unnecessary arguments. Especially you shouldn't skirt or make any bad word about Brazilian government. Argentina, um, a neighbor of Brazil. However, you should not utter any price to Argentina in Brazil because actually they are rivals. Brazilians only speak Portuguese. They don't like Spanish, while Latin Americans is preferred to those countries that have the connection with Spain. So Brazilians don't like to be compared as Latin Americans. Um, as they don't like to be referred as Latin Americans, so never ask why they are not black. Even though you don't really mean sarcasm, be careful because they will be hurt by your question. So this is the end of what you should do and should not do in Brazil. So the next part is verbal and non-verbal communication will be presented by Thảo Kim. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, teacher and friends. My name is Kim Thảo, and I'm giving you the last section of our presentation today. There are many interesting facts about Brazilian communication that differs the people from other countries. But before we jump into their verbal and non-verbal communication feature, let me give you a brief introduction to Brazilians' communication language. So, in Brazil, Portuguese is by far the biggest major language spoken, with approximately about 98% of the population using it as their primary language. Brazil is unique for being the Portuguese-speaking country in South America. Therefore, common knowledge about Brazil possessed by the outside world is that Brazil is a monolingual society and the official language of Brazil is Portuguese. Though Brazilian Portuguese and the European Portuguese are mutually intelligible, there are some colloquial differences between the two because the modern-day Brazilian Portuguese differs from its origin thanks to the remaining traces of the African and Amerindian languages. So in Brazil, there are over 205 million Portuguese speakers compared to the 10 million speakers in Portugal itself. So it is fair to say that Brazilian Portuguese has taken on a life of its own since the days of the colonizers. However, despite the common belief that Brazil is a monolingual country, it is in fact a multilingual country with dozens of immigrant and indigenous languages. These languages is spread in many communities when Portuguese is not the mother tongue. In this country, there are plenty of room for the coexistence of languages like English, Japanese, Spanish, Dutch, French Romani, and etc. It is to say nothing of the 274 indigenous languages spoken by the individuals belonging to the more than 300 different ethnicities. The indigenous peoples in Brazil have always been used to the situations of multilingualism. That means that the number of the languages spoken by an individual can vary. There are those who speak and understand more than one language, and those who can understand several but only be able to speak one or a few of them. However, despite the variation in the spoken languages, the Brazilians share the same regulations and manners in their daily conversations. So let's jump into the next session to have a more specific view of Brazil global communication. First, I will talk about their communication style. Like Brazilians are very open and friendly. They can be very expressive and emotive in their communication. At times, they may interrupt others when speaking to talk about their passion or interest in the conversation topic. Moreover, Brazilians are often not afraid to speak their mind and express what is in their heart. However, despite the expressive way of verbally communicating, Brazilians generally tend to avoid conflict, so they prefer indirect communication. In conversation, they would tend to gradually shift the topic towards something they would like to talk about. Thus, Brazilians will not be too direct or immediate in their expression due to the tendency to avoid conflict. Many Brazilians also pay attention to nonverbal behavior to kind of develop their impression to one another. Thus, they may often focus more on your body language and your expressiveness rather than listen to the context of the conversation. The next is about the language style. In Brazil, the diminutive is very typical. It expresses the familiarity and the affection towards a thing or person. Most words can be used in the diminutive form by adding the syllable inya for females and inyo for males. For example, the word casa means little house. So when we say casinha, it means that we are talking about a little house using the feminine. The diminutive is also used to lighten the verbal statements that might otherwise sound so blunt. It's like instead of saying yes, people may say like "son pouquinho." It means only a little bit. About the formality, in Portuguese, different forms of expression indicate the level of formality or politeness. The generic titles of Senor for male and the Senora for female are the most formal method of address, and they are commonly used to address people of like the senior people, like based on the age and profession. It is also common to address someone by their professional title followed by the surname. For example, if we talk about a female doctor named Alfonso, we will say Dr. Alfonso. The more informal expression is the pronoun você. It is typically used among those who are familiar with each other. There may be made some slight variation in approaches to formality depending on the region. However, when you are in doubt, it is better to use the formality form of communication. So that is about the verbal communication in Brazil. How about the non-verbal? In Brazil, the Brazilians tend to be quite tactile. Like they love physical contact. The touching of arms and backs is a common and widely accepted practice. Generally, public displays of affection such as holding hands and kissing are acceptable. It is not uncommon for women and children to link arms when they're walking, and men may use both hands to shake hands and to add warmth and sincerity to their greeting. If next is about the personal space. During a conversation, Brazilians tend to stand very close to one another. This distance may be closer than what is common in Australian culture that we learned in the last in the last lesson, and they are not put off by touch. About the gestures, Brazilians often propose in their physical expressions, particularly with gestures. The purpose of gestures is to help emphasize the point of view on a matter. Their hand gestures worth mentioning, like, for example, the rubbing hand like this is to refer to the idea that something doesn't matter or it's not a big deal. Additionally, the use of the thumbs up gesture signals approval, and we don't use the okay hand sign in the Brazil because it is considered to be absent and rude. Moreover, some sounds created by the body also communicate particular ideas. For example, as a way to indicate disapproval or disagreement, Brazilians may click their tongue and while shaking their head like. Another example is the clicking of one finger. I don't know how to click my finger, but with it is different from what it taught in worldwide, like snapping one fingers. The gesture of clicking one's finger is repeated several times while talking about something that lasted for a long time or took place a long time ago. The last feature is about the listening habit, like given the
Exuberant.
exuberance of their expression, the listening habits of Brazilians may seem erratic. There is a tendency to interrupt one another as each person attempts to express their viewpoint. Next, Yang, please show a friend the video about some top Brazilian gestures.
Forgot my car keys in my car, and then maybe you made your way through insane traffic, as my fiance says, because for me it's just normal. And then you found like a parking lot. You get into the parking lot. As you enter, the guy makes like, what the heck? And then you spend 2 hours looking for a parking spot. Look at what? You can't find what. You see? You see what I'm getting? Gestures are as important as grammar. That's what you're gonna see today. The most used gestures by Brazilians, besides the thumbs up, which is not this. We don't use this. This is a anyway. We use this. Besides this, this is cheating. Talking about different stuff right here. I bet one freaking kidney. I bet one kidney that you're gonna see Brazilians using those gestures when you come down to visit, or if you start watching Brazilian soap operas, Brazilian movies, whatever. You're gonna see Brazilians using the gestures. First one. That means pretty similar, kind of related. You see, like as they rubbing each other, kind of the same. You know. Another one we use a lot is mais ou menos, kinda, so, mais ou menos, mais ou menos. The gesture is oh, so dumb. Like I forgot my car keys in my car, and then my car out a lot. Oh, so the next one means leave. Vai embora. Vai embora. Vai embora. Leave, dude. Vai. Go. Vai. The other most used gestures. Vai. Faster. Vai. Do that, just leave this finger loose. Leave it loose and then faster. Remember that? That is, oh man, I'm screwed up. Cara, tô fudido. Oh man, screwed up, dude. Screwed up. You were screwed up. Oh, dude, you screwed up. Oh my gosh, dude. How come you did that? You screwed up. That looks good. Look delicious. Weird, huh? Later. Let's talk later. You know? Or if you aren't really into watching soccer, you're gonna see that a lot. Because soccer players, they love that one. Wasn't me, like, I don't know. It wasn't me, like, I don't know, he just fell, like, I just, boom, ran into him, like, I didn't do anything. So, like, did you know all this gesture? Do you guys use that too? Which one is your favorite? My favorite one is this. I used it a lot. Oh my gosh, dude, I'm so screwed up. Dude. How come I did that to myself? So leave that in the comments. Share that, which one is your favorite, which one was the most different one. And remember, to like this video, show that to other people that are learning. Share that in the groups you're part of. And let's do it. Brazilian Portuguese is no bullshit.
So this is the end of our presentation. To help you maintain the knowledge about the lesson today, Yang will give you some small game on Kahoot.
Okay, please wait for me a little. Okay, now while waiting for me, please each group choose a representative to enter our game. Therefore, we will have nine players. Okay, please go to Kahoot and enter this pin code. I just send you in the chat box. Yes, I just sent the pin code in the chat box. Okay. Okay, we have one player, Brave Koala. Which group are you from, Brave Koala? Mighty Impala. Okay. Wow, what that random names or something? Okay,
I believe that it's much better to write out your group number. To name yours by your group numbers.
okay, buffalo is from group 5. Okay, we have 2 buffalo. Oh, sorry. Okay, we have 7 groups. We still need 2 more. Group 1, group 3, group 5. Okay, now we have 8. One more group. Okay. So we're ready. Are you ready for this? If you're ready, please type yes. Okay, yes. Now let's go. Okay, first true or false. The yellow color in the national flag stands for the sun. Okay, the answer coming fast. 7 answers. Where are the 2 groups? 8 answers. Of course, it's false. We talked about this from the beginning. Okay, Speedy Bobcat at the top. Wow. Now, question number 2. Which of the below statement is incorrect about Brazilian cultural values? Which of them is incorrect? Okay, we have 1 answer. We run out of time. 4 answers. 5. Yep. The correct is Brazilians have weak family bonds but still respect elderly. Because Brazilian are collectivism, so they have strong family bonds. Okay, Smiling Panther is coming up. Next question. Samba is the most popular music in Brazil. Where does it come from? 1 answer. 7 answers. Yeah, Africa. We talked about this at the beginning. Okay, and now Mighty Impala is on the top. Next one. How much is the standard tip in a restaurant? You need to remember it. You need to remember this to eat in Brazil. You have 3 minutes. Answer. 4, 7, 8. Yeah, the answer is 10%. Okay, we keep changing the top position. Now it's the buffalo. Question number 5. Brazilians generally love what? 1 answer. 5, 6, 8. The answer is showing affection. They are very tactile people. Wow, the only group that can stand on the top for 2 rounds. Good job. Now, question number 6. The rubbing hands together gesture indicates that. Indicates what? I'll talk about this. We have 4 answers. 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, it's 5. Wow, no one can beat Electric Buffalo. Samba custom leaves motor body uncovered so the dancer can show their beauty. Okay, it is actually in the handout, not in the presentation. Balls. Not to show their beauty, but to keep them from overheat. It's in the handout, guys. We still have Elated Buffalo on top. Now, question number 8. We still have a lot of chance, guys. Come on, which topics should we discuss? Eight answer coming in. Wow, most of you guys choose soccer. Oh, sorry. This is okay. This may be an answer mistake. The correct answer is soccer, not red and yellow. Okay, how should we discuss this? Okay, let's move on. What is the national dish of Brazil? We have this in a warm-up game. You guys still remember the name? Seven, 8. Okay. Visuada completa. Whoa, still elated buffalo. Brazilian culture is a culture of. Okay. Masculinity. What masculinity? Yes, intermediate masculinity. It scores only 49 on masculinity. Okay, we have the third place is Magic Rooster. The second place is Smiling Panther, and the first place is, we all know this, Elated Buffalo. Congratulations. Okay, Elated Buffalo, please type your group name into the chat box so we can prepare a gift for you when we meet again in the class. Which group is Elated Buffalo? Okay, group 9, congratulations. And that is also the end of our presentation. Thank you, you guys, for participating. And please feel free to give us comment and questions.
Excuse me. I would like to inform the winner of the first mini game. This is Yến Nhi from Group 1, and congratulations, Yến Nhi.
Okay, time for feedback by participants.